Hello, everybody. We have with us Sakshi Mehta for our webinar. She will be taking the session on interactive UI and UX wireframes. She has been working in the industry for long, and she has experience working in multiple domains, creating mobile applications, web applications, and a lot of project management stuff. So yeah, let's hand over the session to Sakshi. Hey Sakshi, welcome to the show.
Hello. Am I audible, Devesh? Awesome. So, thanks, Avi, for onboarding me in the session. So before we start over with the session, I want to give you a quick go through of all the things that we are going to cover up in the session, and basically what all am I going to cover is what is wireframing, why is it done, how is it done, and various different perceptions what people take in when they are wireframing. But apart from that, I'll try to relate it with real life examples so that you can get more acquainted on what is occurring, and basically just more retention for all of you over here who have joined it. So I'll just share my screen and we can get started. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So, starting over the session, what is wireframing is one of the really major things that, of course, we are going to talk about. So, it is like a visual skeletal framework of a website. This is like you're able to see right now a very basic description of the theoretical description of the whole wireframing thing. So, when I started over with wireframing, I was told by my mentor that we can relate it more with the fashion industry that we are basically working in. So it works exactly in the same manner. So for example, when we in a fashion industry, we draw certain sketches and then maybe prepare some small prototypes of the dresses and then let create it into a huge complete dress. In the same pattern, the application and wireframings work for us. So similarly, you just sketch it out and you can make maybe create a small prototype of it, how is it going to work in a demoable state, and then lead it to a complete application that will be built over by the developers. So wireframing really will play a very important role for us in this particular scenario. Moving ahead, why is wireframing important to us? So it's like I do have a really fascinating example over here. Like we can discuss on this use case. So now imagine what if Walt Disney would walk into your office and he would ask you I want a wireframe, or maybe I want a sketch of a rat who have like these oval shaped eyes and maybe some ears and nose protruded, and yeah, and I want to be like I just wanted to be really friendly with everybody who's with us. So maybe in my mind, I'd be able to sketch something on this particular ground. Like this can be the rat, which is very friendly to me. Yeah, it definitely have that oval shaped eyes and ears. So it just seems so friendly to me. Or maybe I can just create him. Like it is pretty fascinating for me. Like he's Jerry Mouse. Who won't like him? But according to Walt Disney, what he would want is maybe he would just come again and reject both of them. And what he would want is no, I just wanted to relate with the animated cartoon that I have created initially, like the Lucky Oswald Rabbit. And then I'll be able to relate with, oh, okay, what's going on in his mind. And then I might create him. Well, the Mickey Mouse that you're able to see right now is like tons of iterations. After tons of iterations, we are over here. and you're able to see this. But imagine so many iterations that we created before, and this getting selected as the Walt Disney product. And this is basically the complete logo of what Disney World looks like, right? So even Walt Disney might not like him a lot if we are talking about iterations. So why is it important is there are so many perceptions that are going on in client's mind, and we want all of them to be, accommodated in a certain space. We want the information that the client is giving us to be viewed in a certain pattern, and that is why it helps us to basically structure all the cluttered thoughts that the client is going on. Like, that's the first motive of our wireframing. Second is, when you are talking so much with the client on their products and what do they want exactly, so over there in that particular situation you are able to establish one end-to-end communication with the clients, which I guess is the most important factor, because the client is not only just investing their money, but it is going to be their dream, it is going to be their emotions, it is a lot of things that the client is investing on. So it basically establish a one-to-one open communication. And the third point is increased team understanding. I guess this is the most important thing amongst or like for the wireframing background. So you can relate it with like a kid who's basically looking at some visual aid. We promote a lot of e-learning and video learning things from our side for kids, so that the visual aids would help them retain the most. So wireframing works exactly like the same visual aid, with all the moments and maybe the colors added to it. The developers and everybody will know what they have to develop and their basic motive of creating that particular application. So that is why increased team understanding plays a very important role in that particular scenario. Okay, moving ahead is the motive. So it is basically like all the thoughts that the client have, all the information that client have provided you. You want it to be structured in a particular paper manner, and maybe even a messy tool like a blackboard and chalkboard or whiteboard. Even those works when you start with wireframing, and it just becomes very handy for you to use that basically. So moving ahead, like we definitely right now discussed on what is wireframing, why is it done, but the most important question that we are over here to address is how is it done exactly. So there are certain control points that we can use while getting our premises on the wireframing. So the five control points are premise, platform, pieces collaboration, purpose of pages, and presentation. So by premise, what I mean is that we have to have the understanding of which domain the client belongs to, what is their geography that they are belonging to, is there any segmented audience that they are trying to focus on. Like maybe there could be a particular application that is made just for the women's and their beauty products like Nika. So all these targeted audience are supposed to be really clear as the premise of a particular product. Other than that, there is a platform, whether you are going to create a web application or a mobile application. The basic like the issue with the platform is, in web application we have a lot of view where we can have maybe a lot of thoughts going on. We can pop in advertisements, and we can pop in messages and so many things that we can just go across in the platform. But whereas when we are talking about pieces collaboration, what happens is we are dividing product in modular levels for clarity of functional requirements. Yeah, so we are dividing that particular product in functional requirements, and the purpose of pages are basically the goals, and what are you going to set in the hierarchy. For example, there can be an onboarding page, there can be a lot of things that can be going on in pieces collaboration. And this is like the purpose of the page goals that we define. The presentation would be basically like adding movements to the pages, color schemes to the pages. So all these things will become a part of our presentation. Now what I'm going to do further in this presentation is majorly focusing on these 5 points and giving you real life examples on all of these five. Okay. So I have got you a real life example of what we deal with in our daily situations. So right now you're able to see a hospital management site. Uh, For example, if a hospital management person would walk in your room and he would ask you like, I want a patient page where we can see all the edit information, or basically like all the patient informations, like their first name, their last name, age, their dates, it can be like the hospital name, the disease that is occurring to that patient, which room number are they in. All these things can be, basically they want it to be seen on a single page. So what you will do over here is, you would, first of course go for a brainstorming session, and maybe you will see this particular yeah, guys, can you just give me a minute? I'll be, yeah. Hello. Hello. uh Hello. Yeah, perfect. Sorry, I guess there were some functional issues. So, yeah, like right now we are able to see this information section. So, I was discussing on like the hospital management, and if the person just comes in and he would ask you to get all the details in a particular section. So, maybe while brainstorming, I'll create these two particular views. In the second view, what you're able to see is like the first name, the last name, and everything like in a perfectly presentable way. I mean, if I were the person who have to take a presentation over the information, then I would definitely go for the second design that you're able to see. Yeah. So, but it's like the requirement of the client is that he wants to see maximum information in a single page, so he would prefer the first one, because it's like over here I'm able to see just 3 entries at a particular point of time, but if you see over here I might be able to see 15 entries all together on a single page. That is why the first design becomes much more preferable for the client when he's looking for an information system based website. Moving ahead with a second example. So the domain of the, like we just talked about the domain of the product. The second could be the geography in which the product is like we are managing the product. So while focusing on the geography, what I found was like there are various sites of the Asian platform. Like right now in front of us, we have this Chinese website that we're talking about. So when I went through this particular website, there are various other examples like QQ and Tmall and Baidu's. There are just so many Chinese-based example if you wish to go and search. So when I searched with this Tmall, what happened was I was like you're able to see this pink color. This was like a banner image where I was able to see what were the products, and the menu was automatically in an open state where I was able to see like the shoes, the lipsticks, and everything other situations. As soon as I hovered over one of them, I was able to see other hover actions. Like there are just so many links, and even like you can see over here small advertisements on this particular section. So there are just so many links that China usually prefers to put in their applications. So they don't exactly focus on a certain like a targeted segment. They focus on all of it, and maybe they make their two or one of their product domains really major ones to market. So that is what China works on. Whereas when we go forward to Western websites, what happens is they have their targeted segment really clear in their mind, because there are so many applications. They have to know what are they focusing on. So this is like the Walmart example that I got. So over here you can see there's a lot of banner images, a lot of space. It looks very clean. There are really less number of URLs that they prefer. So the geography of the product will be very important. For example, if a China client comes into you, he would want a lot of websites and linkable things where user can like get an experience hands on with everything. Like they could just traverse again and again, and again. But that is not going to happen with a Western based website. So that is why we just looked on the premise, like how is it important? Why is it so important to focus on the premise? Other than that, we can talk about the platforms. So like I just told you, like in the mobile view, we have a very small section where we can focus on, whereas in a web, there's a lot of section where we can just put in a lot of data from ourselves. A fun fact over here would be in website, what happens is whenever you focus on a website, the leftmost section, like the left top, is the first section that your eyes are going to focus on. So all the major and important details in a mobile is accommodated in that section. Whereas for a mobile, what happens is you just have a very limited section. So the first thing in the first view, where you can avoid user to scroll a lot, the main content is accommodated in that particular section. So that is like whenever we are brainstorming with the wireframes, we have to keep in mind, like with the mobile application, that the important things would come just up and the user won't have to scroll below for more important details. And one really important thing is the you don't want to give your users so much of surprise when they're working on a mobile application, because mobile applications have become a part and parcel of our lives, and it is so difficult for you to understand, like just imagine a scenario. What would happen is, if there's a video streaming site and it would just start playing somehow, or maybe the camera would pop in somehow, you would be startled by the fact, like what's happening, where like you might go to the notification permissions and see whether some applications have access of it or not, and you would try denying those things the access for the same. So that happens for a mobile device, whereas in the websites you would find that this happens pretty commonly, like the videos would play around and maybe there would be a camera that would pop in at some point or the other. So that is why platform determination becomes very important as the second step when we go for wireframings. Talking about the third step, yeah, this is like the third step for us. So I guess these are the most important steps for us, but I've tried to get collaborated in a single slide for you guys. So pieces and functional requirements and purpose of every page works hand in hand and simultaneously. So right now, since we are talking about pieces and the functional requirements, like I just showed you an example over here of a video streaming site. So on the same basis, for a video streaming site, how would you divide it into small functional requirements? It can be like onboarding, it can be some pricing information. In pricing, it can be like a single view user or a team view user, or somebody would apply for a monthly pack, or maybe for like an yearly thing. So anything can come across in modules that you wish to put on with. So right now I have taken example of like login, video streaming. There can be a video streaming page which would be solely dedicated for a single video view, and maybe some options of the videos that we're able to see, the profile creation, home, subscription history, and like everything that you're going to accommodate in your particular website or application would have some or the other purpose. I mean, we are not going to do something like we would just get a blank page in the application and it would be just left like that. So there, even if there's a feedback page, it has a purpose to let your customers or your clients interact on the application and give you certain feedbacks. So history, video streaming, and profile creation, everything that I've involved over here in this particular site includes some or the other purposes. Moving ahead, like the fifth and the most important thing I guess that happens is adding movements to your particular page. For example, if I am on a particular home screen and there's a login button, then it will redirect me to just the sign up page or the sign in page. It won't redirect me something to like the about page or terms and condition page. So the movements for the particular product are determined in the presentation that we are looking forward to right now. So I have, I went through various websites and tried to find out some of the inspirations on the basis of colors. So like red, you're able to see over here. So there are various websites which have dominant color schemes, like the red one. It's basically symbolizes something that excites you, that is kind of a danger maybe at times. So various food applications, if you observe, take red as their color, like Zomato. So what happens in this instance is when you are looking forward to the food menus, so they would just pop in some red schemes to you, a lot of colors and everything. So what happens is it just sends an alert to your mind, like order for food, order for more food, right? So that is what happens. But whereas when we are looking for the color purple, it just determines success. And that is why various good websites like IBM Watson uses purple color as a dominant one for them. Similarly, blue basically is for intelligence, calm, and that is why Twitter and Facebook uses it. So blue more often symbolizes for a sense of security, like you give us the data and it will be secure with us. So that is why Twitter and Facebook works like that, though the real scenario might be different. But yeah, that is what the blue color symbolizes. And orange basically is used very less in the websites. When we use like too bright orange, it kind of sends a negative symbolization to the users and they might retract back. So yellow is a very orange is a very smart color that is supposed to be used, and only certain use of it can be taken up in the application. Similarly, you can see green over here. Green is used for Evanto and WhatsApp, like another sense of security that we're talking about. Now, one really important website, like in red, that we are live streaming on right now, the YouTube, is uses red color, right? So that is basically just because of the factor, like as soon as you see a lot of things happening, you would be very, it would just send you an alert where you have to like subscribe to various channels, and red just do that work for you. On the same color scheme ends, there are various vital important colors that we all go through. So, like there is a white color which basically represents a lot of serene and pure elements. So, can like I just have the comments on for me. Can anybody tell me like what all websites do use white in their color schemes? Anybody? Okay. Okay. So one of the major websites that is using white right now is Microsoft. So it just is one of the most royal colors. That's why like Microsoft uses that as a really dominant color for them. So moving ahead, like with the prototypes and the examples that we're talking about. So these are like the real life examples which we can think of, which are much more beyond what we thought the prototyping would have existed. So right now you're able to see Colosseum. So that is basically used as a really important architectural prototype for us even in today's world. So various stadiums are inspired by Colosseum. Talking about the pyramids, uh, so pyramid, like every pyramid took 20 years to create one set of it. So there were really small prototypes of it were created before it was actually created, so that people can basically structure it out really well. And one of the really fascinating example is the Da Vinci Night. So we do know Leonardo da Vinci and what all he have done for the arts, but one more thing that he created was the robotic night. So what he did was he documented it by police and gas, and he wrote it all from his side, and he created one. But nobody could ever find out like what he actually created at that particular point of time. But his prototyping, his documentation that he used at that point of time was recorded, and recently it was used by a scientist in NASA in 2002 for creating another similar robotic prototype. So these are like the real life examples that we are able to see right now. Moving ahead, with like what are the steps that are supposed to be followed, we definitely saw like how is it done, the premises, the presentations, the everything like we talked about from in the 5 P's. So I would say these 5 P's are the actual thing that would combine and make you into one particular format. So first is of course brainstorming, where you need to know what are the functional requirements, what is the premise of it, what are the platforms that we are going to use. Second is sketching it out. So for sketching, usually what happens is I don't use any tool. I just use like a blackboard and a chalk, or maybe a whiteboard and a marker, so that I can remove it and just put it all in a messy state. uh, so the purpose of it is like whenever I use a tool, I focus a lot on aligning the things, the boxes that are happening, and the main focus of creating, like putting my ideas on the paper, they just draw back. So that is why I don't use tool much. So for the first step, I usually use just like the sketching, this plain messy backgrounds. Another one is like, last one would be like adding movements to it, connecting your pages. So it is basically like connecting the dots all across the application. Right. So like right now, since a couple of time, we were building on what video streaming is, and small sections on how video streaming is working for us. Uh, so yeah. So I have created some walkthroughs and certain mockups of a video streaming site, and we can just look at all those things. Just give me a second. I'll just open up the mockups for you. Yeah, I guess you're able to. You guys are able to see an infinite screen. Uh, yeah. Okay. So, can anybody tell me, like, this is the wireframe that I've created from a replica inspiration? Can anybody tell me over here, like, which one is it exactly like? Guys, is it audible? Okay. So yeah, basically this is a video streaming site, uh, and this is YouTube that we are going on. So YouTube, basically what they do is they have the video over here. Over here in this particular section, they have this up next option, and the rest of these over here that you're able to see are the recommendations that they provide. In this particular section, you're able to see I've used a red color subscribe so that it would trigger me and send me an alert like I want to follow this particular page a lot and add more comments to it. Moving ahead with other iterations, so this is like the second iteration. You are able to see a video stream again on the same spot, but I have shifted my subscribe button over here. So the reason for shifting the subscribe button over here is like whenever the video would end, like it would be to an end, we all have a tendency like we would be clicking it more to see like how much is it left. So by the time from the left our frame has shifted to right, and we'll be able to see the subscribe button right at the top to go for it, like just like the up next thing. And here's the comment section that I can add more. Here's like the up next and all the recommendation, and user can go for a carousel view of the complete application, like more recommendations to it. Moving ahead to the second iteration, so this is like the video is in the between right now. On the side ends you're able to see the recommendations. In between there's like a video instruction section, comment section, but there are two other video sections that you're able to see, which are like the which are going to play the major role in this particular markup. So in the right one, what I'll do is I would put up my first recommendation, like a strong recommendation that I am going to put up, like guys to watch this video, and I want that, so I'm going to put that on the right. Again with the same idea that as soon as the user would go to a right, they'll be able to see like what's going to come next. Whereas in the left one, I might put my second recommendation or even the fourth one according to what I'm able to see right now on my screen. And similarly, user can scroll in the video section that you're able to see with two arrows. User will be able to scroll through more videos. Moving ahead with the third iteration, uh, in this particular one, what I tried to do was increasing the video section and trying to maximize it as much as possible from my side. So this is like the video name. Here are the social sharing. Social sharing is basically like Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, anything you have to share socially is called as social sharing. So like, dislike, social sharing. There's a subscribe button, information. And what I've done is I have tried to close it. Like it would collapse once the user will click on the arrow that we're able to see. And in the lower one, there's like the up next, the one that I want the user to see at any cost. Over here, there's like a small comment section which would automatically pop, like that happens in when you go through live videos. So that happens in the comment section. And bottom one has again the carousel view for a lot of videos that the user will be able to see. Now going for the so yeah, these are like the four mockups that I brainstormed on. But now I'll tell you like why YouTube took that particular view, and why would have they preferred the first one more. So what happens is, like I told you, as we reach an end, if you would have observed, the up next ones just blurts out a little and the loader starts. So as soon as you're completing with your video, what they try to do is just put your focus on the up next video a lot. And what they have done is they would keep your favorable recommendations at the top in this in like the lower section. Since it's at the top, what you would do is there are two really important features: watch later and recommendation. So you would add most of them to watch later, and you would come back and just go through your playlist again, and you would be like, oh, I saved it and I have to see that. So YouTube uses such kind of mockups so that to gain like the maximum retention of the people again. And that is why it have turned out to be a huge success. So this is like how website focuses in a particular view while we are wireframing. Now, talking about the mobile application, again, this is like a YouTube mockup. We are able to see a view over here of the video, the name, social sharing, like, dislike, informations, a carousel view, comments over here in the later one when the user scrolls, because comments usually don't tend to get a lot of things. Though comments do play some important role over here. There are various comments where you're able to see like go at 116 and you will be able to see some good view. So once you are done with the complete video, you would again go on 116 and see what is happening on that. So that is a very important trick that is used in comment section. Another one is this particular mockup, like a brainstorm mockup. So here you're able to see the complete, like the description, the video name when the user would tap on it once, the carousel view, up next view, and the comments in a single view. So basically, the size of this particular section from here to here and this section is absolutely same. So there are no iterations in any of those. The third one over here you're able to see. So the middle one that you're able to see is the main screen, the main focus of all the video streaming that is going to happen. So over here, it's like like, dislike, social sharing, video naming, like, dislike again, and social sharing again. So basically, giving users the maximum focus on what is happening and iterating it again. This is like the information, subscribe, and over here you're able to see again a carousel view of the videos that are going to occur. Carousel view is more preferred since user won't scroll up a lot. They would like to see everything in a single screen. And as soon as they swipe the whole screen left, they'll be able to see the whole comment section where they can add more comments and see what is like the videos happening. I have enlarged the subscribe button there because, based on like the good comment filtration, I might like it, I might dislike it, and I would be able to subscribe, like getting more towards the subscribe option. Once the user would like swipe right, what would happen is they will be able to see more information on the channel and more videos that are associated to the channel. So these are like the basic views of the walkthroughs that I wanted to give you. Like, how do I brainstorm it once it's happening? Great. So these are like the basic walkthroughs that I wanted to give. I'll go again over the PPT and tell you other steps that we have gone through. So I guess we can stream it again. Awesome. Thanks, Devesh. Um, Perfect. So this is like the basic wireframe walkthrough that we had. Now there are some important things before we talk about the best practices. Wireframing is not only what we discussed on right now, like just the basics that we discussed on right now. It basically avoids a lot of iterations that we do in a particular product. For example, what if I make something and I just give it to the users to like the developers to just create it. What will happen is the client would come again and they would want to change some of the basics of it, and it would create a lot of iterations in the development phase. And prototyping plays a very important role so that we can just avoid that particular thing. And one more really important thing that I need to share with you guys is like, why am I using these three terms synonymously: wireframing, mockups, and prototyping? So across the board, these three terminologies are absolutely used synonymously, but there is a fine line of difference amongst these three. There's a famous terminology that we use over here is fidelity. So when we are like wireframing, that is exactly like a human skeleton that we are creating. Whereas when we are prototyping it, it is basically like you're adding all the movements, you're adding structures, you're adding colors to a particular person. And the mockup would be a fine line between these two particular things. It is like adding maybe hair structures or like just making it, sketching it out beautifully. That is all the mockups are about. So these three things, even across my whole video, you might be seeing that I'm using it really synonymously. So moving ahead with what are the best practices. Okay, so it is exactly like following the 5 P's that that we are discussing on since half an hour. So the importance of 5 P's is that the industry is changing a lot. It's like if today I share with you some best practices that we can go forth with, it might not be applicable after 6 months, or maybe you can take it after 3 months, it might not be applicable. We are in a lockdown phase. There is a certain tendency of people that will change, that will update, and according to them, the aesthetics, the colors that we are using, the preferences that we are using will update every time. And that is why following the 5 P's are the only resort that we have at this particular point of time. So moving ahead, uh, maybe like I wanted to give you a quick go through of balsamic, but I guess if we have 5 minutes, I can share with you the balsamic thing. Uh, can I get some like, do we have the time to cover up balsamic? Awesome. So yeah, I just stopped sharing. Okay, awesome. So yeah, the wireframing is like this is the basic platform that I use when I go for wireframing. So this is exactly like the blackboard sketch that we're doing. It is just a little more aligned with what we are thinking of. Like it just provides me an automatic, like everything is already created. I can just drag and drop and get the complete alert box. That is why it makes it more handy for me to work on this particular platform. So I can just create a new project, and this is like the wireframe. So this is like the quick add section. Over here, you will be able to see all the icons. If you want, there are like more control options that basically works on Balsamic. So you'll be able to see hundreds of templates that they are providing us. You can get tons of icons like call out actions, mobile views, alert boxes, a lot of customizable things that they are just providing you automatically to gain. So as soon as like I type browser, yeah, so it is just like completely made for me. So I would it basically saves me a lot of time where I would just like create a class for a complete windows to be seen like that, and maybe inherit it in every other platform, and it just saves a lot of time for me. So I use like a basic balsamic theme over here. I can iterate it according to what I want. The most favorable website view would be like 1028, and anything more than that is considered as a desktop responsiveness, whereas anything lower than that maybe goes into the iPad frame or maybe the mobile application. And similarly, like this was the iPhone screen that we just saw. I can add in a lot of icons. I can add in images. Maybe I can show you some iterations. Yeah, over here, this one, like you can see. So the initial tools that we were talking about when I was telling you about platforms, so these are like how they were created. So you can see every particular piece is not grouped right now. This is like the play icon. This is like the video player, a rectangle, a video name that is a label, dislike, share. Every icon is over here. So I can just accommodate it, move it, drag and drop, and it is as simple as using like maybe a small paint tool for me in this particular scenario. And also, Batchamic online provides a lot of tutorials that we can work on, and it is very handy and easy to use. So I'll just put in some more like anybody who would like to discuss on some use case, we can move ahead with that, and I can tell you like what I would go forward with in wireframing in that particular use case. Yeah, it's again an infinite. Right, Swapnil. Like there are so many tools that we can use. Like David is saying about Adobe XD, Azure. But what happens is it is more of a prototyping section in where we can add a lot of aesthetics and colors. But just when it is like getting up your thoughts on a particular page, it is already very messy, right? You wanted to first get into a structure. So for that structure, Balsamic really works a lot. Like for me in this particular stance, and it's like in whenever I'm using Adobe XD, there are various options. Like I can just get in the wireframes for like various sizes and various types. But until unless like for an alert box, I would have to create an alert box in that particular one, and maybe add colors to it and make it aesthetically pleasing. So when it goes to a higher level, such other or like other wireframing tools like Adobe XD and Azure RP, InVision prototyping, all of these can be used and will be very handy for us. So it's like anybody have any other questions so we can like start with that. Okay. So moving ahead, like that is the tool recommendations, like just we talked about Azure RP, Adobe XD, InVision, and Balsamic. But there's a really important food for thought that I really want to give you at the end of the session. So it is like wireframing is a really creative process, and everybody will have their own perceptions when they are working on wireframes. So nothing is basically wrong, even if you create create like a half facade view, it is absolutely not wrong, it is absolutely acceptable. And it is just like for the client it would differ every time, right? So that is why wireframing just cannot go wrong in any place. Like, initially we saw the example of Walt Disney. So over there, even Jerry Mouse would not have been the acceptable or the best choice for Walt Disney to pick up. And I guess that is like a pretty comical character. And I can't even think Jerry Mouse not being in the world of cartoons that we have seen and grown up with. So yeah, so like that is the basic food for thought that I wanted to share. I don't know, somehow the resources are not getting in. So the resources, I would just tell you verbally like how I referred those resources. So there's one really fascinating database that I came across, that was color.com. So what they are trying to do right now is they are trying to find out favorable colors according to various regions. For example, if you put in over there like Asian men and their color. So you might get the favorable colors that are preferable for Asian men. And that is how the color com is working right now. There's Balsamic, there Exjoy, RP, Envision, and Evanto is again another great site that you can go. If you want to work with color palettes, you can try Visme. Visme is really they have really great color palettes that we can prefer. Other than that, apart from these resources, what you can do is like you can just contact me over LinkedIn if you have any sort of questions, and I'll be able to answer you and get back on those. So like we can have a 5 minute quick talking section, like session on quick talks, any questions that I have, and I'll just go through anything that I find. Okay, so Swapnil just asked me, how do you decide what layout we should follow? So it is basically not our decision. It is basically we just have everything in our mind that we can put it on the table, and ultimately it's the client who is going to decide which one should we actually pick, because it is his way of taking it out, right? Recent trend for dark mode nowadays. Okay, so the dark mode that we are talking about, dark mode basically is like uh, the more impact of black and darker colors. So there's another color scheme of black that is really favorable. So color scheme of black is used to represent sophistication and glamour. That is why dark mode is more preferable for us. Like if you go and see Mercedes Benz, they use a dominant black color because they want to really portray in front of you a lot of sophistication and glamour. That is why the dark mode works for us. So David, does that answer your question? Yeah, Karan and David, are we? Does that answer the question? Okay, awesome. So basically, this was the knowledge that I had to share with you guys. The issue is that if I try to cover up like all the things that Balsamic covers, Envision covers, Exor RP covers, and even if we talk about wireframing, making it aesthetically more beautiful, it is very difficult for me to cap it in the session like the limited time that we have right now. So definitely, I couldn't give you all the things that I had in my mind to share, but I just hope that even you were able to retain how is it working, and how did it how just it all happens when we are working with wireframes, and what is the mindset that occurs at that point of time. So yeah, basically I just had that particular thing in my mind to share. So Devesh, anything else, guys? Okay, well, I'm able to see some more questions. Let's discuss on that. Okay, Harsh, how much should one charge for UI and UX of a project? Basically, it depends on what the client wants and what you want to provide to them. So that is like something that it is not, it just can't be determined. I mean, there are various ones who just, take lakhs for putting up a logo, and there are many who are just doing it for the passion that they have in UI and UX. So, Mayank, like we were talking about the demographic effects. So we had a discussion on like the Chinese wireframes and the Western wireframes. So demography affects in that particular way itself. So if it's a China one, you won't have a targeted segment. You would have like just 2 to 3 focus areas, and you would like what you want to do with the Chinese clients is mostly like redirect them and keep them in the loop of the website, and that is why they prefer a lot of streaming a lot. Like if you go to QQ, their main purpose is video streaming, but they do share some news platforms as well, and they would keep you all the time in the loop, like what is happening, and it is usually a little cluttered. So that is how Chinese frames works for us. And going ahead with like the Western ones, they are more clear and really targeted. So demographic is going to work for us in that particular way. So yeah, I guess we can switch on the session, and Savi can take over if they have something. Awesome. So yeah, thank you everyone for being like too patient and being really active. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope I added some more information to your knowledge. Thanks.
Okay, Sakshi, it was really great hosting you, and WTM Indore is really thankful, and thank you all the attendees to like come and attend this session. We are hosting a lot of events online to like help you out, all of you, to like learn and make maximum out of this lockdown special. We do have another session planned as an extension of this session for the next Wednesday by WTM Indore. It will be shortly announced. And for this session, you all can push in your feedbacks. You would be getting emails in your inbox soon. Thank you and have a nice day, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you, everyone.